Yesterday we are discussing about supercapacitor and the basic principles of the supercapacitor and how it works and what kind of materials can be used in supercapacitor applications, nanomaterial and the composite. And in today's we will discuss about the synthesis process and how the nanomaterials and the nanocomposites can be synthesized and what is the optimizing parameters we can take care of for the supercapacitor applications. So first of all, here today we will discuss about the synthesis process. Although there are so many synthesis process, because in nanotechnology, the synthesis process is vast, and also material can get in many manner. So here I will discuss few of the synthesis process. So first one, we're talking about the EPD. It is called electrophoretic deposition technique. So in this electrophoretic deposition techniques, it is not only depends on the thin film deposition. In this technique, we can synthesis materials, directly growth materials onto the electrode. So in this EPD techniques, generally it is the 4 steps. As we can see here, first of all, we need a suspension, colloidal suspension, where the if we want to synthesis material, then we need a material precursor. For examples, like if we want to synthesis manganese oxide, then we need a manganese precursor. For example, MnSO4 or MnCO3, like this. And if we want to deposit the MnO2 onto the current collector, onto the substrate, or making a thin film, then we need a MnO2, previously synthesized MnO2, and make a colloidal suspension. And the next step is we need to charge this particle. Suppose for thin film deposition, for thin film deposition, if we make a colloidal suspension, then we need a slightly amount of the suitable acid or base to make our material is being charged. And if we want to synthesize the material through this EPD process, then no need to charged particles. It is no need to add a acidic or basic for the charged particle. But since in this case the chemical reaction happens throughout the chamber, so we need a suitable chemical reaction reagent. And after that, next step, we need a power supply. So in between this power supply, we need a either constant current or constant voltage power source, or else we can use the variable power source or the variable voltage source. And we need a 2 electrode. One is counter electrode, and we need a substrate all through which we can connect our power supply. And when we connect our power supply, and if we applied, suppose for making a thin film deposition, if we can apply a constant voltage. So due to this constant voltage source, and the particles are charged particles, so due to the potential difference, all the particles are deposited through the substrate, for example, like here. And if, for example, here, and if we want to synthesize the material, then if we want to synthesize the material, then what we will do, we will apply a constant or variable current. So due to this reason, and the solution, the colloidal suspension, because it has the precautions. So what happened? The materials are separated. Suppose like in case of if we use for MnO2 deposition, and if we use the for manganese precursor, if we use the MnSO4, then it is separated to Mn plus and SO4 2 minus. And due to this reason, this charge nuclei or atoms is deposited through the substrate, and the nucleation and the other chemical reaction process, it is also converted to the MnO2. So for that case, in EPD process, we can get both. We can get direct material synthesis, and also we can get the direct thin film. Now, what is the benefits of EPD? So, if we, if we make a difference between EPD and the spin coating techniques, I think you guys all know the thin film deposition, but anyway, I can tell in vast. In spin coating techniques, what we will do, we make a suspension, and in the spin coating instrument, we have a variable rotator and also variable timer. So what we will do there, we can put our substrate and vacuum that, and in a proper environmental condition, we add our suspension and we fix the time and the rotation speed. So due to this reason, the films are deposited throughout the substrate. But the problem for the spin coating is because in spin coating there is we rotate the disc. So due to the centrifugal force and the other viscosities of the material and all, so generally we can get the thin uniform thin film onto the middle of the substrate, but the outer substrate, the film is not uniform. But in case of electrophoretic deposition, we can get a uniform thin film if we can and set all the parameters. We can optimize all the other parameters. I will come to this point, what the things we can take care during the EPD technique. But as we can say mostly that the particles is moved during this EPD is the electrophoretically, and if electrophoretically deposited. But if the substrate is if the substrate is not neutralized, then we cannot get the uniform film, or else we cannot get the film. Next, in mechanism for the EPD, what is the mechanism? So generally in EPD, it is the two-step process. So first step, we apply the electric field, and due to the electric field, all the particles or the atoms are separated and moves towards the electrodes. And it is the first step. And in the second step, due to the nucleation process and due to the electric field applied onto the substrate, the new and also nucleation process and chemical reaction, the materials are deposited onto the substrate. And second mechanism is for the EPD, it is very important, the electric field for EPD deposition or EPD techniques, because in EPD, if the electric field is too high, then what happened, due to the repulsion of the colloidal suspension, films are not deposited or might be cracked. Or else if we apply the higher electric field, if we apply the higher electric field, it may also causes the damage the instruments. And second thing is suspension. So if we make our suspension or colloidal suspension is too diluted, too thin, so or else too thick, so there also must be a problem. First, we will take the thin solution. So if we make the very thin solution or very diluted solution, then what happened during the electrostatic force, less amount of the particles are stored to the substrate. So what happened for this reason, the film might be not uniform, or else we can wait for longer time. And also for the longer time for film deposition, the problem faces is it is being agglomerated. But if we make the very thick solution, then what problem we faced is it might be because in colloidal suspension we have each and individual materials van der Waals forces, whether it may be attract each other, whether maybe it's repel each other. So higher solution, the motion of the particles through the electrode, it may affect. So overall the deposition is not good. Second thing is polymer. If we want to deposit the polymer materials through the EPD, so the mechanism is based on the electrosedimentary. So what is the electrosedimentary? Each of the polymer particles or polymers, they have a specific characterization or specific properties. So if we want to deposit the polymer, we need to apply the proper steps wise, and also we need to charge these polymer particles so that these polymer particles are deposited. And second thing is, if we also, too much ionic concentration, if we apply more to charge the particles, if we apply the more solution that can charge the particles, what happened during these charged particles of ionized charged particles, they repel each other. So due to this reason, also the motion of this charged particles through the electrode may affect. So so for the best thin film deposition, we need to take care of all these three and all these things. Like we need to take care of the solution density, we need to take care of the electrostatic force, we need to take care of the concentrations. If we can maintain all these three parameters, we can get a very good thin film, and we can also vary the film thickness for this EPD techniques. So yeah, here is the suspension parameters. If we make because for EPD technique, main parameters or main things we have to consider is the suspension, because ultimate our main goal is to make a thin film or deposition synthesis particle. So suspension is the more important, and for that suspension, first thing is the particle size. If a particle size is large, so what happened due to this large particle, it may fall down bottom of the beaker or bottom of the container. So what happened, then the deposition is not occurred. And also the viscosity of this particle, and also dielectric. If it is the too viscous or the low viscous material, then the deposition must be not uniform, and for that case we need to take care of the deposition time. And zeta potential is the it is the chemistry related concept. Only one thing I can say in zeta potential can be depends on many things. It depends on the conductivity, it depends on the viscosity, it depends on the chemical nature and all. So we need to take care of the zeta potential also, the colloidal suspension. Next thing is the stability, whether it is in the material is stable or not. We need to take care. For example, we can I can give you one example. Graphene oxide. Graphene oxide, it is a very good water soluble. So if we make a graphene oxide solution, we can get a very, and EPD, we can get a very uniform thin film. But if we separately, if we make a reduced graphene oxide, so it is not well soluble in the water. So in that case, we cannot get the good thin film. And for example, we can say is,
excuse me, Bhaskar sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you make the slide full screen?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, now it is okay. Now, okay. We are talking about the stability. So for the reduced graphene oxide, it is not well stable in water suspension. If we use a reduced graphene oxide in water, and we can left it for a couple of days, we can see all the water, all the reduced graphene oxide are fall to the bottom, and water in the top. But in case of the graphene oxide, not reduced graphene oxide, it is it can sustain so many days. So for the suspension for the EPD, we need to take care about the stability. For large or heavy particle, it is not stable. And second thing is next one is the concentration of the solid, as we can discuss it now. Okay. So here are the few examples of the electrophoretic deposition. As I can say, it's for the graphene. So graphene oxide. So what we can see it here, we can make a graphene oxide. It is a good water soluble, and when we applied a voltage over here, we can see during the EPD technique a very good thin film is formed. And if we dry it, and if we make the post treatment, we can make the reduced graphene oxide film or the graphene oxide film, whatever we want, we can. But main thing is to make the good thin film. So in the EPD techniques, and if we use the graphene oxide suspension, and we can get a very good thin film. And also we can control the film thickness. As we can see, if we vary the temperature, or if we vary the solution concentration, we can also vary the thickness of the film. Another example is the MnO2. And how this is the one electrophoretic deposition and of the MnO2. So here what they do first, this is the post treatment for the electrode. They make a separate structure, separate dimension, and after that, during the electrodeposition of the MnO2 electrodeposition technique, they deposit very good uniform MnO2 thin film. And also for the polymer substrate, as I said before, for the polymer, and also they used a polymer like a PPY. It is a polymer material. and after that they get a good thin film, and also after that they assembled it and make a supercapacitor. Why they used this EPD technique? Why use EPD technique? Because in EPD technique or in any electronic devices fabrications and all, we need a very good thin film. But in EPD we can get this thin film. But in case of spin coating, in case of the spin coating, we cannot get the uniform thin film. So nowadays people are using EPD. Also, it has some limitation, or it has some few things we have to take care, as I already said, like solution concentration, or for charging the charge the particle, what is the suitable suitable acidic or basic medium, or few other things. Another example is it is the manganese oxide, like metal oxide, and also polymer, both composites. So what they make the EPD substrate, and we can see it here. They can get a very good material, also very good thin film. So even on for spin coating technique, what we can take, we only take those substrate, suppose like plastics or glass substrate, not a flexible substrate like carbon fabrics or the other substrate. We cannot use in the spin coating techniques, but in EPD techniques we can use all kind of substrates, which is the one of the benefits of EPD techniques. So here is one example where they use a stainless steel substrate, and it is the net-like structure. So in that case, and also how they deposit in EPD, they used in this EPD techniques, they use the PDOT-PSS. This is the polymer polymer material, and also they use a manganese oxide precursor, as we can see here that this yellow dots is the Mn2+ ions. So during this EPD techniques, this polymer materials and the Mn ions are deposited onto the substrate, and also during the chemical reaction, this Mn2+ is converted to the MnO2 nanoparticles, and we can see it here how good uniform film is deposited, and the materials are the well structured. Next is the single nanowire device. Yesterday I was because of running the time, I was omit these things. Today I will share the single nanowire device. In the EPD techniques, we can also get the nanowires or the specific structural devices. So what in EPD techniques we can do? We can use a template. So in this template method, suppose we can use a copper substrate, and in copper substrate we use a AAO template. This is the one kind of template which is the nano rod like structure. There are so many other templates also, but here for example I can say I can use a AAO template, and after that AAO template, we if we want to deposit the electro deposition technique, we can have the film thickness and we can control it. So we can suppose, for example, nickel and the tin, NiSN, we can deposit. So for the controlling the time and also controlling the suspension, we can deposit half of the nanowires through NiSN, and so there already there has some pores. So after that, what we can do next, if we want to make a flexible or a single nanowire device, we can deposit the other materials onto the half of the nanowire. Here we can use a polymer. So and finally we can, after that, we can make a good device which is the structural single nanowire, and also we can apply it is in supercapacitor devices or any other devices. Here we can see it this single nanowire, if because we can use a template, so this there must be a gap and we applied the electron, so that devices is the complete devices. But I would not suggest to use the template, because although we can get the very structural good structure devices, but problem is to remove this template, and also during this removal of this template, there are some limitation. I will not discuss on that, although we can say it like the main focus is in the electro deposition techniques. We can get a very good single nanowire devices, complete devices.
Bhaskar, please let me know when you want to distribute the test question, okay?
Okay, but somehow my slide is not changing.
Not?
Change to the next slide. Some technical.
Okay, yeah, we just keep a network problem maybe. Just we make it a size. Just make press escape, then do it once again.
Yeah.
Your computer really hang?
I'm not.
Yeah, do the exit slideshow.
Yeah. Now it is fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So next one is the hydrothermal synthesis. So hydrothermal synthesis process, it is nowadays one of the vast research process, because in this process we can get any type of material, any kind of structure, anything, whatever we want. So, and in hydrothermal, it has some differences with the solid state reaction. So in the solid state reaction, it is the reactivity, because in solid state reaction, what happened, all the materials deposited, all the materials formation onto the top of or else outer of the atom. So, but in the hydrothermal, we can remove these things, and also we can get the structural or any single crystal or any kind of material we can synthesis through the hydrothermal. So Generally, hydrothermal synthesis is classified many categories. Among of these are the heat treatment. During the heat treatment, crystals are formed, and transformation during this hydrothermal transformations means from one crystal structure to the another crystal structure. And also ion exchange. Ion exchange means during this process, if we have two different atoms, it will exchange the ions and make a completely new things. Crystal growth, we can make a good crystal growth of the material. Decomposition. Decomposition means if we use a chemicals, and also after decomposition, it is transformed through a new structure or new material. Redox. Redox means inside the hydrothermal chambers, the redox reaction happened, and as a result, materials properties are the changes. Crystallization and the agglomeration. There is all the others classifications of the hydrothermal synthesis. So, how we proceed the hydrothermal? So, first of all, for the hydrothermal synthesis, for the hydrothermal, what kind of material we want to synthesize? For that, we need to take the suitable reagents, and because we need, I mean, in case of the hydrothermal, for the nano material and the nano composite, we need a suitable amount. For that case, we need to take care of the molar ratio of I will come what how much molar ratio we can use it. I will give you the explanation. And next, after we need to mix it very well and transfer it through the hydrothermal chamber, and also we can control it in that instrument. We can control the temperature and also time. And after finish the reaction, we can take out our material, filtered and dry, and we can go through the next process. So this is the very basics of the how the hydrothermal procedure has to be done. Okay. So here is the things what we will use in the hydrothermal. First, we will use a wet machine. So in that wet machine, whatever material we will use, either whether in the molar or the, we will take the amount of the material, and after that we will mix it through the solution. And this is the hydrothermal chamber for the hydrothermal reaction. It overall it is called a autoclave. This autoclave contains, one is stainless steel round bottom instrument, and inside there is a Teflon instrument, Teflon beaker, which is covered. So what we will use it, we will put our solution over here, and we will put it inside here, and we will fix it. And this is the hydrothermal reaction chamber, and we will put it over here because and also, and here we can set the temperature and the time, and after and also after that we lock this instrument. And after finishing it, and the chamber temperature slightly cool down to the room temperature, we can and after that we take out this all autoclave and take out the Teflon, and take out the Teflon vessel, and we collect the material suspension. And after filtration and the washing, we will dry and get a good get a desired material whatever we want. So here is the small videos how it works. Just so we can see it here. It is the different autoclave instruments and different dimensions. Different inside there is a we can see it here. Inside there is a hole, and this is the Teflon line. So what we will do is here I know one thing I can say is, if we can see at the bottom of this autoclave we have another plate. It is the controllable, because to take out the Teflon Teflon vessel. So what is the benefit? Because we need a compact, and after finishing the instrument our reaction, for carefully we need to press here, so that the upside this Teflon vessel is take out. Here we can see it. We can put our solution and lock it and place it here. Like this, and then we cover it. We need to cover it in all over the region in good manner, because after here when we fix it, it is control the pressure, and which is very important for the hydrothermal reactions. And then we cover the upper lid and tight it well. And placing the reaction chamber. Another videos, here we can see how many components here. Here we have 8 components. So this is the bottom one, where we will put this one. After this one, we put this one, and then we will put this one, and then Teflon line, and cover it, and then lock and press it. I will show you, explain you how. Yeah, this is the smaller plate. We will put the Teflon line, and we inside our solution inside here, fill it and cover it through this jar, and see, cover it. here we can use a temperature which can and control because during hydrogen reaction this outer autoclave it becomes too hot. So to prevent this inside our reactions and also for the safety, we need a temperature controller paste and cover it well. Press it and lock it, and then because this is a one in that thermodynamic reactions happen, so in what temperature and in what pressure we need to fix and do the experiment, and after getting it we can get the material. So here is the one example in the room temperature. Hydrothermal process, hydrothermal process of cobalt manganese oxide. So here for starting, we will take the molar required molar ratio of the cobalt and the manganese precursor. For example, here we use the cobalt nitrate and the manganese nitrate and mix it very well. And for here, because we want a different crystallization structure, for here we add a little bit of ammonium solution. We mix it the ammonium solution and stir well in the room temperature. And after that, we do the hydrothermal. When this solution, we put it in autoclave and doing the hydrothermal. And finally, we can get the precipitation. And then after that, collecting this precipitation, we and drying and we do the next process, so next step, and we heat it at 180 degrees centigrade. We can get the tetragonal cobalt manganese oxide. So here, why I last slide, what I am saying is why the molar ratio is the important. See, if we use the different, we cannot get the exact tetragonal COMn2O4. Suppose here we use one CO and the 2 Mn, so that we can get a COMn2O4. But if we change the molar ratio of 2 CO and 1 Mn, we might be get the CO2 MnO4. So for the hydrothermal, it is important to get the molar ratio. And second thing is I am talking about the temperature and the time. If we vary the temperature and also if we change the time, what happened, its crystal formation may be changed. Whether this in this optimization process, we can get the tetragonal crystal structure formation. But other things, if we change the temperature and the pressure, we might get the other crystal formation. And also it might changes the morphological. Whether it might, if we change the this temperature and the pressure, and we might be get the different morphology. Whether it should be a nanowire or nanoflakes or nanoparticles and so on. And one thing I would say is the amount of solution we require. See, if we see it here, this Teflon vessel, it has a maximum amount of 50 ml. But here, if we see this one, this is the 30 ml. So remember one thing, when we do the hydrothermal reaction, we should not to fill all the vessel. We should leave. Suppose if it is a 40 ml, 50 ml container, we should put it as a 40 ml, because it is the reaction happened inside. If we fill these things, and it might cause the exploration, or it might harm the system and the environment, because we lock all these things, and it is so that its pressure becomes high, and high pressure, high temperature, and chemical reaction, it is dangerous. So we need to take care all these things. And suppose, and one more thing, suppose we add a 40 ml of solution. For example, in 50 ml container, we add a 40 ml solution, and we get a different material. But if we vary this 40 ml to 30 ml or 25 ml, we might not get the same material as we get it for 40 ml. It might be changes, whether it might changes for the crystal structure or the morphology, because inside this chemical reaction happened and the pressure. So for the chemical reaction or the material synthesis, pressure, temperature, and the time is, and also it is much more important. Different pressure, different temperature, and the different time, we can get the different material. So when we synthesis particular nanomaterial or the nanostructure, we should take care of all these things. Another example for the hydrothermal is the graphene and the MOH2 hybrid. So MOH2 has a different thing. So see, if we during the hydrothermal reaction, if we use the graphene oxide and do the hydrothermal, we can get the reduced graphene oxide. And if we use the graphene oxide and the MOH2, it becomes the MOH2 graphene hybrid. As we can see, the MOH2 nanoparticles are well deposited or make a composite with the graphene chain, and as a result, we can see we know that when you use the MOH2, the graphene properties also changes, whether it is its interlayer spacing or the other parameters. So in this hydrothermal technique, we can vary or we can get the many material or the many nanocomposites. Another example is the graphene and the MnO2 composite. So it is a three-dimensional. So how it makes the three-dimensional? First, they use a it is a two-step process. So first, they use a graphene oxide suspension, and they do the microwave treatment, little bit of microwave treatment, and after that they do the hydrothermal. So once this process finished, this graphene oxide, it is a two-dimensional, it becomes the three-dimensional structure and also the pores. And because here they at the same time they use manganese precursor. Suppose for MnO2 they use KMnO4, for example, which has a manganese. So for that case, it becomes graphene and the MnO2, and after this becomes a 3D RGO, and inside this is the MnO4. And then the post treatment they can get the 3D graphene reduced graphene oxide MnO2. So as we can see it here for the ACM and the TM images, how they get the three-dimensional graphene and the MnO2. So we can see it here for the TM. Here is the MnO2 form, and this is the graphene layer, and it is not a two-dimensional. It is a three-dimensional. So in the hydrothermal process, we can get this type of structural nanocomposites also. And another more example is the nickel cobalt oxide microsphere. So we can take the cobalt for cobalt precursor. We use the cobalt chloride, and for nickel precursor we use the nickel chloride. And because in the hydrothermal we need a little bit of chemical reaction, so and also reduction, so we use the urea. So first we mix it, and after that hydrothermal reaction happen. Inside there is aggregation mechanism happen, and as a result, and this nickel and cobalt hydrogen oxide formed in a flower shape, as we can see it here. And also what thing is, we can find it here during this region, we can see it here, so many pores created inside the flower. So the goodness of this type of thing is, in supercapacitor application, we need to take care of the pore size, which I will come with later. So up to now we can get the flower shape. Yeah, and also what I am thinking now, in this particular reaction, we can get the flower shape. If we further vary the even though instead of using cobalt chloride, if we use the cobalt acetate or nickel acetate or some other chemicals, we might not get the flower shape or the microsphere. We might get the other crystal or other morphological thing. So we know for the hydrothermal, this is the beauty of this hydrothermal. We can get many type of nanocomposites and the nanomaterials, just changing the precursor materials or the changing its conditions, temperature and the pressures. Second one is not only metal oxides or metal sulfides and all. We can get the porous carbon by this hydrothermal method. How we can do is, don't be afraid. This is AAPS. This is the one chemicals, and it is the source of the nitrogen and the sulfur. In hydrothermal, we can get the doped porous carbon also. This is the nitrogen and the sulfur content. So first, hydrothermal, they can first they two-step hydrothermal they finish. So first is they hydrothermal with proper condition, they get this type of chemical structure, and after that they use the SDS. SDS also one polymer, and it is this polymer contains the carbon. So SDS as a carbon source. So what they do SDS carbon source, and this nitrogen and the sulfur source, and after this hydrothermal they can get this type of structure. And since one thing is, for porous carbon during this hydrothermal, we can the final product, it is not the product what we are desired, because during this reaction there are some contamination happen. So we need to remove this contamination, and we need to activate, especially for the carbon material, we need to activate. So for this activation, people are using hydrochloric acid or potassium hydroxide and all. So during this activation, they can get the microsphere, which is contains the nitrogen and the sulfur co-doped carbon. What we can see it here, very we can see from ACM images, we can see very good microsphere, and also for their EDS mapping, we can see how much nitrogen and the sulfur are distributed inside this material, carbon material. Okay. Next process is the electrospinning techniques. Electro spinning techniques is only the techniques if we want a nanofiber like structure. So in that case also we can get it, because porosity and the structural are the parameter for the supercapacitor. We can use the electrospinning technique to get the nanofiber structure. Here is the one of the video. I will explain it. This is the spinning instrument, and this is the voltage source. Remember one thing. It needs a high voltage, as we can see it here, because once we apply the high voltage and inside the liquid suspension during this is formed a nanofiber, and this is the substrate. We can deposit it here like this. And also we can vary the voltage and the solution. We can get what kind of nano ribbons or the nano rod we want. We can get this. This is the electrospinning instruments, and it needs a high power supply. And here it is the syringe pump. Here we have a syringe, and here it is the collector. So this is the collector. We can fix our substrate over here, and we can connect it through the rotator, so that during this deposition we can rotate our collector. We can vary the rotation speed, whatever nanostructure, nano ribbons, or the nano fiber we need. It depends on what pressure or in what rotation we can get it. We will fix the speed so that it might increase or decrease the speed, so that we can get accordingly the nanofibers. And next one is the series pump. So next one is the series pump. So what it is, we can have a normal syringe, and we will fix it here. We will fix it here, and in upside there is a pressure, so it will press accordingly. We can control it, so that through the needle we can drop the suspension. Like this, we can fix. You can see here it is fall down. So from the beginning, we need to now we need to take care that all the liquids are through the bottom of the needle, and then here we applied the high voltage to the syringe. And it is voltage means it is quite bit high. It is around 20 volt. We can see it here. Now we applied the 10 volt. This is the controller. You can control the voltage. This is the connector. Now we'll see the demonstration how it works. So For that case, we take a aluminium, simple aluminium foil, and roll it through this collector. We can use our electrode or current collector accordingly, and we can get a good deposited film. Okay, and we can just fix. And now we turn on. We can see it here from beginning. We should not apply the voltage, and just slowly vary. You can see it here. Just slowly vary the voltage, and we can see it how this deposition. Once all it is fixed, then suddenly we slowly increase the voltage, and we will see it how this deposition happen. We can get the nanofibers. See, during high voltage, the nanofibers is deposited through the current collectors. We apply increase the voltage. We can see how it is getting. How the nanofibers are deposited, and we can collect it, and we can make a device as and check its supercapacitor performance. So one of the example is how we can. So we use a polymer and the metal oxide precursor into the syringe, and during this electrospinning technique, we can get the nanofibers, and after that calcination, we can get the metal oxide nanofibers. So in that case, also if we want to make the complete nanofiber, we can use the electrospinning technique, and also we can make many composites based on the polymers. As in this case, for deposition or making we just use a polymer or any kind of metal oxide, mix it together and put it in the syringe and apply a high voltage. So we can get the metal oxide nanofiber, where the polymers make the nanofibers, and inside or outside the metal oxides are deposited. It is depends or whether it might be the metal oxide also it makes the nanofibers. It depends on the what kind of metal oxide we are using. So here is the one more example. Not only metal oxide, the graphenes also graphene based carbon nanofibers. So what we are doing is graphene oxide residuals and nitrogen and the sulfur. We mix it and do some chemicals reaction, and after taking it out, we can get and also freeze out. We can get the precursor, and then this precursor. Sorry, this is the cross-linked residuals. My mistake. This is the nitrogen and the sulfur doping elements, and these doping elements also mix with the graphene nanoseed and do the electrospinning technique. And after this electrospinning technique, we will dry this and carbonize this one. And carbonize and activation, we can get the graphene and nitrogen and the sulfur co-doped carbons. And also we can make a symmetric or asymmetric supercapacitor devices. Next step is the pyrolysis process. pyrolysis process, it's being a little bit of thermodynamics as well as the process, but the process is a very simple process. Is what we will do, but for that process we need the exact materials property. We need we have to know these things. So suppose, for example, if we want to make a porous or 3D porous graphene. So generally, if we want to make a 3D porous graphene, it takes time. First of all, we need to make, I mean, normal in conventional method, we need to make first graphene oxide by modified Hammers method. And after that, this modified, we need a different hydrothermal reactions and other chemicals reaction to get the porous graphene or porous graphene nanosheets, or what kind of structure we need. We will do this thing. But in case of the pyrolysis process, this is pyrolysis process, this is a simple process. What we will do, we'll use, suppose for example, we use a glucose. Glucose is a carbon source, and we use a ammonium chloride. Ammonium chloride, this is the activation and the formation, and it's act as activation and the formation. So now what we will do, we will mix it well and bring in the thermal reactor and put it, increase the temperature. Although it is important that in pyrolysis, it is the generally high temperature process. So what happened if the temperature, suppose around 250 or 300, this ammonium chloride, it's convert to the hydro HCl and the ammonia combinations. And also the glucose is present, and it has a carbon source. What happened? This HCl and the ammonia, it is react with glucose, chemical reaction, and its glucose becomes activated. Glucose, after activation, it becomes a carbon. But if we increase the higher temperature, since the, this is the hydrogen chloride and the ammonia, it's after the chemical reaction, the gas wants to come out through this reaction. So what happened? It makes the porous or 3D structure, but it should be in the high temperature. And also the temperature range, when we increase the temperature, in what ramp we use, I mean, like slowly we increase the temperature or fastly, it depends on the what kind of 3D structure we needed. But as it now, we can see it, and if we increase the around this temperature is very high temperature, around 1400. This temperature, if we increase, and we can get the 3D porous graphene, as we can see it here, which is a very very unique structure and very good pores and all, so that it can get the it might get the high supercapacitive, or it has other properties, mechanical strength or gas sensing or anything, so it can be used. But the problem for the pyrolysis, it must be a high temperature, which comes as safety issues. Another, for example, another example is the nitrogen sulfur. Even also in pyrolysis, we can get the nitrogen and the sulfur co-doping. So we just need a carbon source, and we use a suppose glucose, and we use a urea that can reduce it, and we used a this urea has the nitrogen, and also we use another reagent that is contains the sulfur, and we mix it and make a good powder, and we just put it in a furnace, and carbonization and the activation in different temperature. Generally carbon material, it is activated higher than 500, so carbonization happen is around 500. That means if we temperature increase to 500, this glucose converted to black carbon paper. And after that, we activate it to get nitrogen and the sulfur dome. Here we can see it here. The ACM images, as we can see during this pyrolysis process, the material carbon is a crumpled like structure, and also some pores. We can see it here. It has a good surface area, accessible surface area, because in supercapacitor surface area, because charge stored through the area, so high surface area may increase the high performance. So we can use this process also to get the higher surface area related materials. Another thing is to get the instrument is the freeze dryer. So what is the freeze dryer? Suppose we make a graphene oxide or the reduced graphene oxide solution, and we filtered it. So if we want to dry it, so what happened? The water molecules inside the material, it will slowly evaporate. This is the thermal dryer. What is the freeze dryer? We cannot get thermal drying. What we will put? We will put it in a freeze dryer instrument. Suppose like for hair, we will put it instrument here, and this controller, we can change the temperature and change temperature and the pressure will vary. And what happened here? We can set the temperature, suppose minus 27 degrees centigrade. So, and it is connected to the vacuum pump. We can check the pressure. So the high pressure and this lower temperature, the water molecules just stack there, because it becomes the freeze, and then this vacuum, we just take it out. So what happened? Whatever material formation after the reaction, it is becomes the same. But in case of the thermal dryer or something, it might be agglomerate or it might be changes, because this is the evaporation, and it is the freezer. For example, if we want to make the three-dimensional aerosol, graphene aerosol, what we can do is we can make the graphene solution, and we can do the freeze drying. So once we do the freeze drying, and the molecules are or the graphenes are whatever, it can stack there, and after that we can get the three-dimensional graphene aerogel. We can see it here, how it is become a sponge-like structure. So another example for the freeze dryer is also graphene. Generally, freeze dryer is used for getting the porous or the sponge-like structure that has a higher. You can say it is the higher pores, and also it is improved the surface area, because overall it shows the high surface area. So here it is one example where they use the graphene oxide suspension, and in the hydrothermal reaction they get the graphene foam. After that graphene foam, because see, we can see it here, it is not a water soluble. It can, so after freeze dryer we can get what happened, the sponge-like structure. We can see it here, because in that case, water molecules inside the graphene, it is just freed and we take it out. So overall, it is morphology, doesn't change any morphology. So even any metal oxide like nickel nitrate, also we can get the porous structure, or MOS2 or any iron oxide, anything, we can get the porous or the sponge-like structure if we use the freeze dryer instruments. And one more example is the doped. How the doped archeofoam they get. They use the graphene oxide powder and nitrogen and the sulfur precursors. They used it, and graphene oxide colloidal, and they just freeze it. So during this freezing, this nitrogen and the sulfur precursor are stacked in between the graphene layer, and then they heated it. So this become the makes the sponge, and this becomes the dope related structure, as we can see it here from the SEM images. Another more example also, the freeze dryer of the graphene related graphene nanofoam, because most of cases freeze dryer instrument use only for synthesis the graphene, because it is a unique graphene has a unique property. We can get from the 2-dimensional graphene to a 3-dimensional graphene foam. Also, it can make a good composites which can improve in the supercapacitor. So here is the one example of pyrolysis process where they use a biomass. So they use a normal rice, and from that rice they make a rice wine. So after that, making the rice wine and the freeze drying, they just rice wine less. It is normal rice wine particles, and after that they use the activation and the carbonization, and as a result they get a nitrogen and the sulfur doped graphene. One example is the pyrolysis also, where they use this is the phosphorus, nitrogen and the phosphorus doping. Nitrogen and doping. They use a potassium gluconate and the thiourea, which is the doping reagent and the main carbon source, and mix it and carbonization, and then they get a doped porous carbon. As we can see it from TF, you can find a good pore, which is much more applicable, desirable. Another is the biomass is the silicone cocoon, and they just simply they take the silicone cocoon and just few pre-treatment, and then they used it carbonization, and for the activation they used a copper chloride. After carbonization and the activation, they get a porous carbon, which is shows a very high surface area, very high area, and it is also nitrogen and the sulfur doping, and it contains the nitrogen 7.3% and sulfur 1.6%. So doping and porous carbon material, nowadays research is going on to improve, because simple graphene oxide or the reduced graphene oxides, its electrochemical properties is not much more improved. To improve the carbon material property, people are doing like this. Why they are doing like this? In the next class, when we will go through the device architecture and the device performance, we will discuss about it. And this is the
Bhaskar, how long you will take?
maybe 10 minutes.
Okay, just try to shall I distribute the question? Or wait, you try to finish wrap up by 11:30. Okay, because every day we are not able to give them break. Okay.
Okay.
Just try to finish as short.
Yeah. Okay.
We can take next class a little bit.
Okay. I already shared the questions.
Okay.
Already I share questions. Just
okay, I'm sharing.
Yeah. Okay. So also in the porous carbon, boron doped porous carbon, we can get through this process. I just roughly finish it all, and this porous related carbon, not only carbon, any metal oxides, also metal oxide can be done by the freeze drying or the pyrolysis process. So now, till now we are getting how the material synthesis and what kind of material we can get through the different process. And now we will talk about what is the optimization. So first of all, as I told it last week, as I say, so for the supercapacitor, what we need to take care about the suitable electrolytes and the electrolyte potential window, and the materials. That the materials means its porosity, structural, and the morphological. We will just go through some of this. So this is the pore size, pore distribution, and I just want to go roughly, fastly on that, how we can get the pore size, and we can measure the pores instrument. This is roughly, I can say, this is the instrument where we will put the material, and this is the first we need a two-step. This is the thermal evaporation. So during this thermal evaporation, we need any contamination, we remove it out. And after that, next we will put this instrument, and we will do the liquid high nitrogen and form. And as a result, we will create a pressure. So nitrogen is absorbed, and we will release the pressure, and nitrogen is dissolved. So the amount of absorbance and the amount of the differences, we will get this type of amount of absorption and the desorption spectra. And from that, we have some equation. We will calculate. We can calculate the surface area and also the pore size distribution. For example, we have this pore distribution as. We can see it here, how the pores is distributed, and we can calculate the porosity of this material. And we just take it out. So this is the mechanism. If we have the pores, or how the liquid nitrogens are entered and released. Inside the pores. Okay. Anyway, so here is the different porous carbon materials. As I already told lastly that how the pore. This is the porous carbon. This is the nanotube. This is the graphene, and this is the doped or carbon graphene and the nanotube. So we can see it here. Pores and the electrons is transfer or the ions movement, and this is very beneficial for the supercapacitor applications. And here is the one more example how the pore size is acted, and we can see very low pore, or if the pore size is below 1 nanometer, the capacitance is absorbed. But as we need a steady pore, so generally the best supercapacitive performance shows in this pore range between 2 to 4 nanometers. Although it is depends on the electrolyte, as I say, suitable electrolyte, it depends on the electrolyte's diameter. So higher electrolyte diameters cannot enter to the pores. So pore size and the electrolyte diameters can be optimized or can be used for the best supercapacitor performance. And here how the higher diameters electrolyte can enter, and how the lower diameter electrolyte can enter in the pores, as we can see it here. And here is the pores, we can see it, and also the diameters. Here we can see it if it is the electrode geometry. If the rough nanopore, we can achieve up to and also ionic liquid, we can achieve up to 3 volt voltage window. Otherwise we cannot achieve the voltage and window. So overall then devices energy density and the power density becomes less. We need to overcome this problem. And this is the structural parameters. As I said, from the hydrothermal, we can make the crystalline on the structural, and here we can see for the for this material, it has the two structure formation. One is the octahedron, and one is the tetrahedron, and make a unique another crystal formation, which is higher, which is very accessible for the electrons movements or the electron transformation. Another already I told you that the single nanowires, and in that case single nanowires, if it is the their crystal formation and has the higher oxygen vacancy and reach, then how the its effects on the supercapacitive performance, as we can see it here. Suppose like for the higher oxygen vacancies material, electrons, how electrons movement from suppose this is the cobalt manganese oxide, how it is transformed from Mn2 plus to Mn3 plus, and the vice versa. And then second one in hydrothermal, we will say that the morphological. So how the morphological parameter, here we can see in the hydrothermal we can get the nanowire, and after that we can in this hydrothermal and the proper condition, this nanowire are agglomerated and make a hexagonal nanostructure, which is much increase the compared to this nanowire. This increase the surface area for the higher charge, and we can get the how the nanowire are agglomerated and formed a hexagonal structure, disc structure. We can see it here. And this is the another thing, if graphene oxide and the polymers, how they make the block structure, like single graphene layer, then the graphene layer polymers, like building blocks that can accessible for the charge store. And this is the porous graphene, as I will explain it in freeze drying or in pyrolysis process, how these pores are created, and also how the morphology means the nanorods also be how the nanorods growth during the hydrothermal process and get the high supercapacitive performance. Morphologically, nanorods also applicable for the higher performance. And here is the other not even nanorods, nanoflakes, MnO2 and the porous graphene nanoflakes. And here is the pores and nickel oxide. Here is the nickel hydroxide, and this is the nickel oxide and the porous graphene that have a nanopores or the flakes-like structure, and which can be used. So that's now till, and next class we will discuss about the device architecture and how these devices using these materials, how these devices makes, and what is the performance, and in what application we process in future we can use these devices.
Well, any questions for this session? Yeah, if you have any questions, please ask. I already shared the question answers question set in the chat box. I think there are no questions. I think. Bhaskar, am I audible? I think, right?
Yeah.
Well, then thanks, Bhaskar. You are already for your time. So
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
So now, thank you all of you. Now we are closing this session, this first morning session. We will rejoin at 11:50. Is it okay? 11:50.